Well, how was your week? Have you found that you're using the course is affecting your behavior at all in your parenting?
The choices, giving her choices when she is not doing what I ask her to do.
Hmm.
And I did a boo-boo yesterday or the day before yesterday because she her grade on the power school was an F. It was not even half of the grade. It was like a 42. It wasn't not even 50%. So I was a little upset and I made an appointment with the teacher and we discussed it. And but I automatically said, well, you're not going to a party. And then when I thought about the reading, that was something not to do because that wasn't the behavior. So that's something that I have to remind myself about in regards to the discipline or the, what's the other word? The consequence behind what she didn't do versus just automatically
Like,
punishing her.
yeah, yeah. And we're gonna talk more about that tonight because we're gonna be talking about, as the book calls it, discipline that makes sense.
Yeah,
Discipline is different from punishment. The
right,
whole goal is to teach her self-discipline.
right.
So we don't want to get her to do this and to be doing things out of fear,
Yeah, yeah,
but rather because she's made some thinking about a bad choice she's made. Did she do something that was a bad choice? Or, you know, did she not score well on a test or something because she needs more help? In other words, punishing isn't going to help her get a
right,
better grade.
right,
Trying to figure out what happened, what's going on that had that particular result occur. If it's a bad test score or something, what do we need to do to support her and figure out what it is? It's like the story about the little kid whose teacher lets the school know that, the boy is talking every time she starts to do a lesson. He's throwing spitballs, he's doing silly things in the back of the room instead of listening. Well, those are really bad choices. But when the parent talks to the child, they hear that, oh, that's because my buddy thinks it's funny when I do that. And now he lets me stand next to him at lunch and sit next to him at his table. So his real motive is to make friends. And he thinks this is the way to do it. So the parent's goal then has to be, once you understand what his goal is, give him some coaching on how to make friends without hurting his grades and hurting the grades of everybody else in the class. you know,
yeah,
and then that tells you what you want to teach the child. Okay. So now I've figured out what's the motive behind the behavior. Then what do I want to teach my child in the face of that? Well, I want to teach him how to make friends without, you know,
getting in
hurting his
trouble.
own learning, right?
Mhm.
Oh, maybe what is the reason your daughter got some bad scores? Punishing, just giving her a bad consequence won't get at that, right?
Right.
Hi, Joe. Welcome.
Hi.
How are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
I'll have to
Oh,
mute myself because I'm outside.
okay. Well, I'm not hearing any noise.
Sorry.
I just want to hear you tell me any ways that you're using the course and it's affecting your parenting. Anything?
Yes. So actually this evening, this afternoon when I was at school for the parent teacher conference, my little son was running around in circles and so I wanted him to stay quiet and, behave. So I gave him two choices. I said, you can either stand quietly and wait here, or you can go sit in the car. And we got there early, so I gave him, I said that the second choice was you can go and sit in the car. And he said, no, I want to stay here. So that helped.
Yeah.
So that was good. But this morning, we were running late, and I kind of had everything that I learned kind of just blew off because I was, he was just taking his own sweet time with his breakfast, and we had to get to school on time, and I got upset with him. So
Yeah.
it's there are times when
Oh,
when
there
it
will be.
works,
There will
and then
be.
there are times when I have to train my brain to calm down.
Yes, yes, yes. We have to recognize that we're not going to change our behaviors overnight either. We have to
Yeah.
learn step by step.
But being aware of it has definitely been helpful.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to mention is that the first thing, and this is what often happens, once people start to use the two choices thing, we have to remember that the first thing is that they're doing attention getting. So anytime you pick up the phone or you have to talk to the teacher or, you're not paying attention to them and there's not much for them to do, they're going to start doing attention getting. And the response that the course teaches us for attention getting is not two choices. The two choices is when you give them a direction and they do the opposite. So they're, absolutely like defying you. You say, come here, and they go the other way, right? Or you say, I'm going to give you, I'm going to have to talk to your teacher now. We'll give you some color crayons and some coloring book pages to sit over here and entertain yourself because we have to talk, right? But you're thinking out, what am I asking of my child? How old is your boy? 5, 6? Joe? I can't, oh, 4. Oh, it's even worse. So can you turn on your sound? Can you, no? Okay. It would be helpful if you would turn on.
Okay. Can you hear me? No,
Yes, I
Mrs.
can
Jones?
hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you can call me Norma. But for a 4-year-old, for them to be quiet and have nothing to do, that doesn't make sense. We have to give them something to do.
Something to do. True.
They're not misbehaving. They're being forced,
That's true.
So, if you want to take them to a restaurant or whatever, you got to bring that little kit of whatever they can,
Yes.
even the restaurant owners will give you crayons and something like a placemat that you can color or do dot to dot or something like that, right?
Yes.
At the table. So we have to remember what's the developmental stage of my child, right? And what kind of behavior can I reasonably ask of them that they can deliver on, right? In other words, I'm not going to get mad at a blind person because they can't see, right? And I can't ask a 4-year-old to do something that maybe an 8-year-old is better capable of doing. But even an 8-year-old would have to bring something to do while you're having a parent conference, right?
Yeah.
So the big thing I want us to understand is that, hi, Khadijah, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
We want to see
Yes.
you, even if you're chewing dinner or you got your hair in curls.
I'm here.
We want to see
1
you.
second.
We miss you.
I missed you
I
too.
can't see you though. You're all in the dark. I don't know.
Yes, 1 second. I'm driving, that's
Oh,
why.
okay. Got it. Okay. And it's nighttime. Got it. All right.
Yes, I'm right here.
There you are. Okay, great. Oh, I love seeing you. Wonderful. So,
Thank you.
So anyway, what will happen is once we learn the two choices thing, we are doing two choices It should only be if you have a power struggle. So now if you gave, Joe, what is your son's name? Joanna? Can you tell us his
Kabir.
name? What is it?
Kabir.
Kabir?
Kabir.
Kabir. Kabir. Yeah. So you say, okay, Kabir, I'm going to have this conference with your teacher. I'm setting you up over here. I'm setting you up over here. Uh-oh, I got an echo.
I can't, yeah,
Um,
one sec.
and you've got some crayons and a coloring paper, and I'm going to have to talk to your teacher, okay? And I know now you want to use the positive reinforcement. Now you want to use the positive. I know you know how to sit and color, or maybe there's blocks in the room. If you're in your class, his 4-year-old classroom, there's probably lots of activities that he
So
can.
this happened at the hallway while we were waiting to get into the classroom.
Got it.
And so
Got it.
not in class. In class, he was very respectful. He did his coloring and,
Okay.
but it was in the hallway.
That
There were
makes
people
sense.
walking, so I didn't
That
want him
makes sense.
creating a racket while.
I understand. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So, but the big thing is you want to talk about what is the behavior you're looking for.
Ms. Johnson, one sec. I think
when
there's
he-
something.
When any of the children are doing attention getting, because, they're in this hallway, then you want to remind him of the behavior you want. So I know you know how to sit with mom for a few minutes while we wait our turn. Okay. And I don't know, maybe you make up a game that you can play. We'll say the alphabet. You say, let's count to 10 together, or let's count to, some little activity that you can do with him while you're waiting. Okay.
Right.
But then if he then doesn't cooperate and then starts running around, that means he's changed it from attention getting to a power struggle, because now he's you've given him your attention, you're giving him something to do, and he's still doing something else, right? So then you give him 2 choices. Okay. The 2 choices you came up with were excellent. We've got to be careful, because a lot of times parents go right into giving 2 choices when kids are doing attention getting. And it's not 2 choices then. Okay. It's only 2 choices when it becomes a power struggle. So don't skip over when you're feeling annoyed by their behavior. Just remind them of what you want them to do. Okay. I know you know how to do it, whatever it is, whatever the behavior is you want. Okay.
I think there was a problem with her phone.
Okay. Yeah. Because we were getting, I was getting an echo there for a minute. So she'll probably come back in a minute. All right. Anybody have anything that you can tell me that you're using? Did anybody do any problem solving with your child where, you talked about something that you wanted to change from a breakdown to a breakthrough? Anybody? Or any of the strategies that we've been talking about from the beginning of the course to now? Any way that it's changed your interactions and the way you're interacting with kids? Anybody have a share? Okay. All right. I'm going to switch and let's take a look. There we go. Okay. So last time we were together, we were talking about problem solving. Okay. And we had some examples of how we do problem solving. And we were building on the week before, we had done reflective listening and iMessages. So when you're doing problem solving here, remember we saw the Asian family here doing problem solving about the boy who was not practicing his instrument that they were paying for lessons and he wasn't practicing. So essentially they were wasting their money because he wasn't going to learn if he didn't practice. So the problem solving process uses the reflective listening. In other words, you want to give your child a chance. Here's Joe coming back. You want to give your child a chance to say what's going on with this problem. You know, what are they thinking and feeling? In this case, you know, you're not practicing. We're paying for lessons and you're not practicing. Can you tell us about that? Like, what's going on with you that's what's happening? And the kid says it's boring. Remember? I just think it's boring. So, at least now they have given him a chance to talk. They're listening and they're pointing out that they have a problem. Wait a minute. We're investing money in these lessons, right? So they're giving him an I message. First, they're listening to him using reflective listening. And then they're letting him know that, yeah, but you know what? We have a problem. Okay. So now, what do? You're essentially saying in a statement, how can we? That's kind of how you begin all your problem solving in a family meeting. Okay. If the family meeting is just you and your child, one parent and one child, or if mom and dad or two partners are there with their child, okay? Or the whole family is there, or in a classroom, the whole class is there with the teacher. You're going to start with this statement. How can we? And then you fill in the blank with what the goal is. What is it you're trying to achieve? Okay. How can we, in the case with this boy, have you practice and participate in practicing your instrument that you wanted to have these lessons for? Okay. So we want to state what we want to get to. How can we do this? What is our goal? We want to fill in this blank, okay? If it's a whole class, it could be, how can we all get online quietly and quickly in order to go to the next class and walk through the halls, okay? So you begin with this little stem and you fill in the blank. You might do it on a whiteboard. You might have a piece of paper and you write it down. You might have some kind of a whiteboard with a marker that you have in your house or just paper. And then you talk about it, okay? And then you brainstorm different ideas. So everybody gets to throw out their ideas, including your child. So they feel like they're participating in this problem solving. Okay. And you write down everybody's ideas, even silly ones. Okay. Because sometimes somebody says something funny and then it makes us think of another idea and we put that one down. Then we decide which one we're going to use. So just because we're writing these ideas down doesn't mean we're going to use them all. It's just getting the ideas out, right? And then we pick which one do we think we want to try. Okay. And then we check, we say, let's try it and check back in a couple of days and see how it's working. Or maybe it's a week, depends on what it is you're doing. So let's just remind ourselves. We saw, I'm going to replay something we saw last week to just remind ourselves what it looked like when this family was doing that brainstorming. So now we're stop the share.
Victor and Amy start by asking themselves, are my rights not being respected? Yes, if Tony doesn't practice, he's not showing respect for the investment they are making in his lessons. So it is really their problem, and they decide to explore alternatives with him. They start by using an I, or in this case, a we message.
We feel discouraged when you don't practice your guitar because your lessons can't help you if you don't practice.
I've really been trying, but it's just boring. We know it can be hard to practice, but we thought you would have some ideas on how you could be sure to fit it in every day. What do you think?
Maybe I could practice before I go to school.
You're already too busy getting ready for school. I don't think that would work.
Would it seem easier if you practice in shorter sessions?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Amy, Victor, and Tony brainstorm some ideas, discuss various plans and schedules they think might work, and all choose a practice plan that Tony agrees to. Then they agree to test the idea.
Okay, so you think you could practice better in shorter sessions, one after you get home and one after supper.
I think that'd work.
Sounds workable to me.
Well, we'll try it for the next 3 days, and then we'll talk again about how well it's working for you.
Okay.
We know you'll find a way that works for you, Tony. You're not the type of person who gives up easily.
Even though Victor and Amy owned the problem, they included Tony in exploring alternatives.
So you notice how many of the skills we've been covering they used in the meeting. The mom kept encouraging him, right? She reflective listened. When he said it's boring, she said, well, we know it. We know it can be hard to practice sometimes. I got it. But we know you're not somebody who gives up easily. So she's giving him a little compliment there, right? She's encouraging him. So she's working, we're working in all the skills we've been covering, okay? And they gave him an I message because besides listening to his side of the story, they're telling their side of the story with the I message, right? So that's what we covered last week, all right? So now, let's go back. There we go. So there's the steps that we use in doing the problem solving. And you can do it as a family. You can also do it with a friend, just in where should we go for dinner? If you're going to meet a friend, or what movie shall we go to, or whatever. How can we pick a movie? Let's brainstorm some ideas. All right. Now, the next thing is you can do this at a family meeting where you get the whole family together at a regular time. You say, okay, we're going to meet every Friday night over maybe it's our pizza night, or maybe we do it on Saturday morning, or maybe we do it every Sunday afternoon. We have a family meeting time, and we have a family meeting, okay? So we've seen some examples of that. So let's just see what that looks like to remind ourselves. We've seen a little bit of those.
Great.
Meeting adjourned.
Terrific.
We're going skating.
Okay.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for chairing the family meeting, Cole.
No problem. I love it.
So they obviously had a family meeting, and they let the kid be the chairperson of the meeting. If you had a class meeting, you could have someone in the class be in charge of running the meeting this time. And next time, maybe being the chair of the meeting rotates, you know? The parent could chair the meeting, a child could chair the meeting, the next child the next time, okay? So what does a family meeting look like, okay? Let's just, in your parent handbook, on page 95, okay, in here, there's this that I'm showing you here. There's a list of a possible agenda for the family meeting, okay? Here you even see a little joke that's the kid is saying to the parent, okay, I'll eat it, but we're going to talk about this at the next family meeting. So it has become such a norm, a regular thing that they did in their family, that even when something is going wrong during the week, it doesn't have to get handled right then. You can actually say, you know what? We're not going to deal with this right now. We'll put it on the agenda for our family meeting for this weekend, okay? And we're going to put it on the refrigerator with a magnet as a possible something we're going to talk about. So the idea is, if you have a regular meeting, you don't have to even have any problems that are going on in the family. You just have this every week or every other week, however often you think is a good idea for your family. And you could say, well, this is what we're going to do at our family meetings. We're going to start off and say, what's something new and good that happened to you this week? And everybody's going to listen to each other, share what that is. That can also happen at a class meeting. Read notes from the last meeting. So whatever you were working on, maybe problem solving from the last meeting, this is a time to talk about it. What did we say we were going to do? Oh, you were going to, practice your guitar for 15 minutes when you get home from school, and then 15 minutes later on after dinner. How is that going? Were you able to do it? Now you're talking about old business, some plan that you had working that you were checking back on from the last meeting, okay? And then, is there any new business? Is there something we want to talk about? Is there a problem? You guys, I'm having a problem because you're not getting your chores done, or we're having problems all getting everybody online to come in from recess, so we get upstairs quickly, whatever it is. And then you use the problem solving method. How can we, for the new business? And then you brainstorm ideas and you pick one and you're going to check back on it, okay? Or the new business could be just, what movie are we going to watch this weekend? Let's brainstorm some ideas. Or what fun thing can we do on Saturday night or Sunday afternoon or whatever? Plan something fun to do. How can we have a fun activity on Sunday? And then you brainstorm ideas, blah, blah, blah. Pick one and try it out, okay? So at the end of the meeting, you say, what did we agree to on this in our meeting tonight? And you adjourn the meeting till the next time. Any questions or comments about that? We see what a family meeting looks like, right? Anybody have any comments about that? How you can have this regular meeting, okay? To do problem solving.
I had a question. When it comes to class meetings, what would you recommend is the regular amount of time that should pass between meetings?
Well, if I wasn't the music teacher and seeing, 10 classes a week or 20 classes or whatever it is,
16.
yeah, but you might decide you're going to institute the class meeting for the purpose of problem solving, exploring alternatives. So you'll bring it up when it seems like we need to, you know what, guys, we're going to stop here for a minute. We're going to have a class meeting. Okay. Because, and now you can give an iMessage. I have a real concern that, we're not really taking care of the instruments or something, or whatever, whatever you're noticing that seems to be happening in a particular group, So I want us to put our heads together. We've got some class agreements for what our behavior is going to be, but we seem to be getting off track here. So let's see. How can we, and then you want to state something specific that you want to work on, right? So I would probably do it with whatever class seems to be needing some attention. And then you set that up as a norm. It starts to be a way that you deal with things. And when things start to go awry with kind of group behavior, right? If it's just one or two people, then that's not when you're going to have a whole class meeting, okay? Then you would want to have a one-on-one meeting. Now, I'm going to be going over a special procedure for that with teachers on December 11th. Okay, I've made it a deal with Lisa that I'll be teaching you something we call restorative discipline for teachers, and how to have one-on-one or one-on-two meetings with children that really seem to need more of a plan, a more specific plan that's really tailored to them. Yeah?
I'm familiar with restorative circles. Yes. Looking forward to it.
Well, not restorative circle. This is restorative for just one-on-one or one-on-two. Okay? A restorative circle is another thing, right? Where you're involving the whole class. So I'm distinguishing several different methodologies here. Okay? You see, Michael, you're getting what I'm saying? I'm distinguishing.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it on December 11th.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, any questions about the problem solving that we started last week, and how you can have a family meeting and set that up for as a regular procedure? Any problems or questions about that? Okay. Tonight, we want to talk about discipline that makes sense. Okay. So I'm trying to move some of these things out of the way. Okay. So in chapter 6 of our parent handbook, okay, which is the chapter you will be reading this week, these are something, just the way we talked about encouragement as being different from praise, according to our authors, our psychologists, discipline is different than punishment. And so we want to try to understand, how are the authors sharing with us that discipline is different from punishment? Because some people might think these are synonyms, that they mean the same thing. So there's a way that they're talking about this that we want to understand, okay? So the purpose is a big distinction. What is the purpose of discipline? The purpose of discipline is to teach the child and have them learn. The child learns self-discipline. So we want to gradually have them become more and more independent and able to, in a sense, be able to make decisions on their own to do the right thing, not to always have an adult around that has to stand over them to say, don't do that, but do this, okay? We'd like to gradually have them be just making good choices more of the time on their own. So how do we do that? We have to be using discipline instead of punishment, okay? So let's distinguish this. The purpose of discipline is to teach so that the child eventually has more and more self-discipline and is making good choices on their own. Punishment, on the other hand, is kind of like, oh, you just inconvenienced me. Now I'm going to make you feel inconvenienced. I'm going to get you back, right? I'm annoyed. I feel annoyed. I feel like you made me annoyed. And now I'm going to get you back. It's kind of like it's hurt. You're going to hurt the other person. And that's a different purpose. Okay. So you always want to be asking yourself as you're making an intervention with children, is this going to help teach them something? Okay. You're always going to be modeling respect. So you're not going to be disrespectful to them. Okay. Punishment often models bullying. It's like, listen, I'm bigger than you. I'm your parent. I'm your teacher. I've got all the power. And if you don't do what I say, I might raise my voice and start screaming at you. I might call you names, use put downs. I might even spank you.
Um, um, Mama, I didn't mean to stop you. This is Khadijah.
Yes, Khadijah, anytime you
So,
must do that.
yes, I tend to use that a lot. That's why I wanted to say something.
Okay,
Like
good,
when
good.
a child is, I always say, I'm your mother. Don't talk to me like that.
Yes, yes, I hear
Oh,
you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what I'm suggesting here is instead of using the name of your position, the parent or the teacher, right? Try to just use the strategies, right? Send your child, if your child is speaking in a way that's disrespectful to you, it shouldn't be that they aren't speaking to you, that they should speak to you or respectfully because you are their mother. They should speak to everybody like that, right? And so you want to say, when you speak to me like that, I don't like it. I feel disrespected and I want to move away from you. Okay. So it could be, if in the movie last week, we saw the dad say when he was talking to Jamal, Jamal started to say, I'm not a baby. You don't need to tell me how to pick my friends or something like that. And the dad said, okay, looks like we're getting off track here. Let's start over. I will be speaking respectfully, and I expect you to speak respectfully. That's much more enrolling, if I can use that word, more inviting, and it sounds more like you're in charge than saying, I want you to speak respectfully to me because I'm your mother or because I'm your teacher. Khadijah, does that make any sense to you? Khadijah? Did you hear me? Hello? Khadijah, are you on mute so I can't hear you? I don't know if you're answering.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I'm here. I
Does
hear
that
everything
make
you said. I
does
heard
that
you.
make sense, Khadijah, to
Yes,
you?
it does. It does. It does. Thank
In
you
other
so much.
words, it sounds more powerful, more like you're in charge, and
Yes,
more like you really expect respect. And
right.
you're really not going to engage in a conversation with them. Like, we can go away and come back in 5 minutes and try again. But right now, I want you to know, unless you're speaking respectfully, I'm not going to participate. So that's
Okay.
really two choices, isn't it? You can
Yes.
speak calmly and respectfully, or we'll stop the meeting and we'll try again later. But right now, this is not working for me. That puts you in charge. Can you see that, Khadijah?
Yes. Yes.
You're much more in charge, and you're saying we're not going to continue a conversation unless we're both speaking respectfully to each other.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
That
also
sounds,
it's also
yeah.
going to help you not raise your voice. To just know when you have those two choices in your pocket and you bring that out, you're in
Okay.
charge. You sound more in charge,
Charge. Okay.
The other
Okay.
way sounds more frantic, like, stop doing that. I don't like it when you talk like, you know what I mean? You want to calm down,
Yeah.
take a breath, and give your two choices and talk about that way. And
That's
you'll be modeling respect by doing that. Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much.
Your teaching responsibility. These are all characteristics of using discipline instead of punishment. Punishment is what we know how to do without taking this course. It's what we always did, right? Now we're putting more arrows in our quiver, so to speak, in our holder for our arrows, towards building good skills in our children and ourselves. Oh, okay? You see what I'm saying? These are skills. We're building our own skill level here. And we're modeling skills that our kids are going to learn by seeing us use them, you see? So now you're setting limits. You're naming the desired behavior. Remember, we're telling them what we want. What did we want? What's the desired behavior? Respectful talk. Whoops. That's the desired behavior. I want us to each be speaking respectfully to each other. Okay? And you're giving choices. Either you're speaking respectfully, or we'll stop talking now. We'll talk again later. We'll try again later. Okay? So discipline is for bad choices, not for bad kids. So you don't want to say you're a bad kid, you're a bad boy. No. All human beings have good in them, all of us. Okay? But we make bad choices sometimes. Okay? And so if you make bad choices, there may be some consequences that came along with it. But if you're in a family meeting and you're saying, or a class meeting, you're saying, okay, how can we, and you brainstorm some ideas for a particular problem that we're going to try. How are we going to how can we get everybody to do their chores on time? How can we get our homework done every night? How can we get all the materials put away at the end of our music class or our regular class like that? How can we, if we've done that in a class meeting or a family meeting where we problem solved something, part of it will be what's going to happen if you don't do those things? You may build that in. So when you choose to not do the right thing that we've already agreed to at a class meeting or a family meeting, then you're choosing that consequence that we put in there when we made the rule. You see? So you stick to the present circumstances when you're doing discipline. You don't say, you know what? You always do this. You've been doing this forever. No. Stick to now. Don't do that stuff about all the other bad things, right? In punishment, you bring up past bad choices. You talk about kids being bad. You move right to a punishment. When you are giving choices, they have a chance to still make things good, right? you try to make a consequence somehow related to the infraction. So if I say you're going to miss a favorite television show because you didn't set the table, one thing may not have anything to do with the other. So you try to make it related to the infraction. Now, what Joanna said was she was waiting in the hallway with her little boy and Sabir, and he was running around.
Yeah, he was running around, yes.
And so she said, Sabir, you can either sit here with mom or you can go sit in the car. You decide. That was related to the infraction. In other words, I can't have you here running around in the hallway. So if you can't sit here next to mom, you're going to have to go sit in the car. So there was a relationship there. And you were sticking to that present circumstance. You weren't saying, you know, you did this the other day too, and like that, right? So those were good. And all of that was discipline. All right. You're being firm, but friendly, or firm and caring. You know what? I can see you're not ready to talk to me now. We'll try again later. Okay. Rather than in punishment, you sound angry and like you're going to get even with them. You're back to this revenge idea. You know, you inconvenienced me. Now I'm going to inconvenience you. So it's this different approach. When you're being firm and you're giving choices, they get to try again later. Okay. So we're going to take a look at some examples and see if we can apply these ideas. Okay, we're going to look, just like we do each week, at some circumstances of adults and children and what you think you would do using these new strategies or all the strategies to handle the situation. All right. That one away.
The purpose of discipline is not to punish. The purpose of discipline is to teach children to be self-disciplined and responsible, to guide children in learning how to make good choices for themselves. Helping children learn from the consequences of their choices builds decision-making skills and responsibility. Punishment teaches children fear and resentment. It can damage self-esteem and the relationship between child and parent. In the following scene, Susanna and her mother demonstrate the negative effects of punishment.
You're late again. We've talked about this too many times. You can't just come in here whenever you please.
I forgot my watch, okay? What's the big deal about being a little late? Besides, I was just having fun with my friends.
Susanna, this is getting out of hand. You're beginning to be late all the time. We held supper for you until it got cold, but then it got late and we had to eat without you.
So I'm sorry, okay?
Sorry isn't gonna cut it, not by a long shot. You can just forget about being with your friends for the entire week. You're grounded. You won't be able to use the telephone, and you'll also need to write your grandmother a letter of apology for missing the dinner that she cooked for you.
Fine. I'm just sure all of us will just have a great time together in this happy home.
Can you believe what she is putting me through?
Don't try to convince.
Maria's response to Susanna blocks a possible solution to the issue of Susanna being late and does nothing to enhance their relationship.
I expect an apology from you.
First, Maria responds in anger and sets a power struggle into motion. She accuses Susanna of being insensitive, and her tone and body language show disrespect. Maria also responds to Susanna by punishing her, and the punishment of removing privileges does not teach her to be more responsible. There are several helpful keys to the discipline decisions parents make. They are: 1. Show respect for your child and yourself. 2. Expect your child to cooperate. 3. Provide choices. 4. Apply consequences. Let's replay this scene showing an interaction between Maria and Susanna that follows these guidelines.
Okay. So I just want to stop for a minute and say to you, This little girl she consistently, we see examples of her being very, very disrespectful and fresh when she talks to her mother. But her mother just used punishment. They did this between each other the whole time. Nothing was accomplished. Susanna, the daughter, didn't get taught anything about building better skills of being respectful to her mother. And the two of them were, just arguing back and forth. So no, nothing in terms of learning better, respectful behavior came out of it. And I can totally feel how the mom feels because they obviously said they had an agreement already about what time she should come in. And she's blowing off their curfew time for dinner. So how can we use STEP? We're going to see now, what would it look like if we use STEP strategies instead of what we all know how to do that mom just did? And that's perfectly understandable for her to do. But now let's see if we can get a better result. Being firm and in charge, not letting the kid get away with it, but let's see how it looks.
Susanna, we agreed that you would be home in time to have supper with Grandma and me. Supper is at 6:30. It is now 8. Can you help me understand, please, what is going on?
I forgot my watch, okay? What's the big deal about being a little late? Besides, I was just having fun with my friends.
Okay. Step 1. Can you help me understand, please? We have an agreement. Here, 6:30 is dinner time. Now it's 8 o'clock. Help me understand. She's giving her a chance now to tell her side of the story. She's firm. She's listening, but she's letting the kid talk. Okay. Now she's going to go forward. Let's see what happens next.
Have an agreement that you will be home for supper. Coming home late tonight tells me that you're not ready to keep our agreement and that you've chosen to stay home tomorrow night.
She had 2 choices already in motion when they agreed on the curfew. You came home tonight. That behavior shows me you chose not to keep our agreement and that you're choosing to not be able to be with your friends tomorrow after school. She chose that. The girl did. The mom didn't choose that. The girl did. When she chose to violate the agreement, she was telling the mom through her actions that she was not keeping the agreement and that she chose the alternative, which is related to the infraction. That is, you don't get to be with your friends tomorrow after school. Now,
Out with your friends the following night until 6:30. We can try it again then.
This isn't fair. I'm not a little baby. Who cares if I eat supper with you or if I don't?
The issue right now, Susanna, is you're being on time and following our agreement. Beginning again on Wednesday, you could either be with your friends and come home at 6:30, or you can come home directly after school. You decide.
This time, Maria demonstrates respect for Susanna in both tone and body language. No blaming or accusing. Maria has an agreement with Susanna. Be home by 6:30, and she invites Susanna to cooperate. She lets Susanna exercise control in choosing whether she wants to come straight home or be with her friends within the stated time limit. Further, Maria uses consequences, not punishment. A consequence is a result of the choice a child has made. Susanna made the choice to be late. Maria used a consequence that directly related to Susanna's misbehavior. Susanna's behavior resulted in her not going out the following evening. Maria did not debate the issue with Susanna. She simply presented a clear, firm, friendly, and respectful restating of the limits and the consequences of not choosing behavior that fit those limits.
okay. Tell me what you saw and what you noticed and anything that you learned from watching that about how to use discipline instead of punishment. Shanto, you with us? Shanto, can we see you? And Khadijah?
My video is on. I just can't hold the phone because I'm driving right now.
Okay. How about Khadijah? Khadijah,
I'm still here. I'm still here, but it's same. I'm driving.
okay.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell me anything that you want to comment about the two scenarios we just saw? One that actually showed us what it looked like to use same old punishment we all know versus the step discipline approach.
I'm
You can
noticing
see that the response. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Who was speaking? Michael's gonna wait a minute. Who was the other speaker?
I was trying to speak, but she can go first.
Okay. Who is
Yeah, I was
it?
saying that, but it was me. You can see that the response was different. I can definitely relate to the first response and using punishment instead of discipline
Yep.
because you're so upset in the moment, especially when the child is not being respectful or not acknowledging that she was wrong.
Yep.
So, but this is a new approach for me. I've never seen it like this, and yeah,
So
I'll try it.
I want to keep reminding you that punishment and power, because we have size and we have, they need to be fed and clothed and have shelter. So we're providing that as a parent. So we have all the power. And when we use punishment, we don't really teach our children self-discipline. We only teach them to get better at circumventing our power. Okay? When they have a stake in the game and they're participating in problem solving, making rules, making agreements, the family meetings, the problem solving. We saw an argument earlier that of a brother and sister who were arguing over when they're doing their homework, who is going to have the markers on their side of the table, right? And they did problem solving. The mom sat down with them, right? And said, well, let's see, how can we share the markers in an effective way? And you always want to fill in the blank with what you want, not what you don't want. How do we get you two to stop arguing over the markers? Is not the way you want to say it, right? You want to say, how can we share the markers for our homework each night, right? Let's make some rules. Let's make some guidelines, blah, 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 like that. So when you use punishment instead of discipline, all you do is win in the moment, but you don't get any long-term changes in behavior. You don't develop new skills on your children's part. When you regularly engage in family meetings, reflective listening, you get a turn to tell your side of the story. I tell you how I'm feeling. You're actually, remember those brain cortex skills? Intuition, I'm a deer is how it is without the R. Intuition, morality, adaptability, flexibility, decision-making, empathy, emotion regulation. Those are all the skills we're developing in their cortex or not. These strategies that we're teaching and learning in this course teach skills, okay? Doing what we always did, like that mom in the first thing that we saw tonight with that mom and the girl coming in late, doesn't teach any skills. It just shows how we argue. We all know how to argue. You yell at me, I yell at you, and nobody learns any new skills. We don't come up with any better plan. We don't develop another strategy for how to better manage it when we don't get what we want, or we get something we don't want. That's what makes us angry, right? So all of us know how to argue. You don't have to take a course in that, right? These things that we're talking about tonight are going to build skills and strategies in yourself and your children that are going to make them be leaders and valued wherever they go. When our kids leave Breakthrough and go on to high school, I can't tell you how many times other principals say to me, who are these Breakthrough kids? They're amazing. We've never heard kids talk like this. You know, they say things that they've been hearing in our school all these years. They're used to problem solving. You know, my 41-year-old son tells me his woman friend broke up with him, and she just said, I'm out of here. And he said, why aren't we sitting down and problem solving this? That's what I've always been taught to do. He thought she was whacked out because she didn't know how to do that. To him, it was like breathing. We sit down and we talk it out. You don't just split, you know? So it's something that makes you a leader when you have these skills. And that's what you can be doing with your children and making your classrooms and your home have more positivity and less conflict, right? We're trying to shift it from a preponderance of negativity to a preponderance of positivity. Is it always going to be that way? No. Are we ever going to do this? Sure we are. But can we change the frequency? Can we increase the positivity and reduce the negativity so that we have more good times and caring and sharing going on and cooperation and less of this, right? Where we're setting each other off. Anybody want to comment on that? Okay.
I'd like to say what really pops out to me as valid advice that's seen in action is that everything the mom did in the second scenario was relating it back to expectations. It's not really about a personal battle. It's really about the expectation is for you to get back by 6:30. We agreed on you getting back at this time and you didn't do that. So these are the consequences, but it was always related to the behavior and not to the children or the relationship she's trying to build of trust and accountability.
Yes. Yes. There was no, you're a bad kid. You're just a bad kid. How did I raise a kid like this, right? There was no name calling. There was no putting down. There was, look, we made an agreement. Now, if there was an agreement, that means the kid bought into the agreement when it got made too. And when we make class rules, we try to do that at Breakthrough that way too. Class agreements, right? Respect agreements, we call them. How do we have respectful classrooms? And we make those rules, and the kids contribute to making the rules way back in September, the first couple of weeks of school. And then we keep referring back to them, right? This mom did that tonight. She said, wait a minute, we had an agreement. So you broke the agreement, which shows me you chose to not be with your friends tomorrow, right? And the next day, you can be with your friends again. We'll give you a chance to show you can do that and come home at 6:30 like you agreed to. And if you do that, you'll get to see them every day. But if you don't, you're choosing not to see them at all. So, let's look at some more opportunities.
Setting limits and providing choices are important tools in assisting children to become self-disciplined, responsible individuals. Using respectful words to present the choices can help with both.
Jamal, you can play on the team as long as you get your homework done and your grades don't suffer.
I try to keep my grades up, but I gotta play on the team.
Well, son, it's up to you. You can get your homework done, keep your grades up, and play on the team, or you can sit out the season. You decide.
Sam has set a clear limit. He respectfully communicates the expectations he has for Jamal. He doesn't let Jamal sidestep the expectations by only promising to try. Sam provides the options, but playing or not playing is Jamal's decision. If Jamal doesn't live up to the expectations, it's Jamal's decision not to play. In some cases, a choice is not possible. Giving a phony choice or the appearance of a choice when one is not possible sets the stage for problems. However, it is usually possible to set limits and invite the child to cooperate. Stuart is watching television in the morning before school. The school bus is due to pick him up soon. Because Matt depends on the bus for Stuart.
All right. I just wanted to stop and ask you what you thought of the situation with Jamal before we went on to this next one, and I forgot to stop the video. So the dad gives Jamal, Jamal wants to be on the team. And the dad says, fine, you can be on the team, keep your grades up, and everything will be fine. But if your grades go down, you're off the team. You decide. So, any thoughts about that?
His expectations of he explained the expectations to the child prior to the child wanting, and know the consequences basically.
Yeah.
Before anything happened.
Yeah. And he tries to sidestep the thing and say to his dad, I'll try to keep my grades up, but I got to play on the team. And the dad says, yeah, but that's not the choice. The choice isn't that you try and you don't keep your grades up, right? If that happens, you need to understand what is going to happen. You're not going to be on the team. Now, I'll tell you a true story that happened with my daughter. My daughter, who is a grown woman now, she's the twin of the other 41-year-old I was telling you about. She's a teacher. But when she was in high school, she was a tremendous athlete, and she played on the basketball team. And sophomore year of high school, she got it in. She had always been a great student, but she thought she wasn't going to be popular enough. And she made up in her own interpretation in her mind that the kids thought she was being too smart. So she was going to try to, have these friends by not doing any homework. So for the first time in her life, she stopped doing homework, right? And after 5 weeks in high school, the semester is 10 weeks. And at 5 weeks, if there's any problems, you get warnings sent home. So we get these warnings sent home that she hasn't been doing her homework, right? And we're like, what? And her father said to her, okay, what you need to understand is you need to get this all caught up and straightened out, or by the end of the 10 weeks when the semester will be over, or you won't play on the basketball team in the winter. Okay. But dad, just like Jamal, but dad, I have to be on the team. Well, fine. Get your grades up, get all your homework in. like that. So she thought he was bluffing, right? The end of 10 weeks, we find out nothing's changed. Okay, I can see you've chosen no basketball for the winter, right? But Dad, the team needs me. And they did. She's a terrific player. But she carried on a whole weekend. I want to tell you, banging on her bedroom door, kicking things, crying. Oh, the drama you can't imagine. And we just turned a deaf ear to it. We just went about our business. We went outside. We did, like ignored it. So by the end of the weekend, when she dried her tears and calmed down, she said, I'd like to have a family meeting. This was the norm in our house. So okay. And I have a counter offer, she says. I have a counter offer. This is the language my kids had, right? She said, how about, even though the semester's over, I do all the assignments in all the courses and get it all caught up, and I'll be starting the next semester for the first 5 weeks, and I keep up all those assignments 100%. Can I join the team halfway through? Like rejoin the team then? She was that good that the coach, and we talked it over with the coach and everything. And he said, yeah, of course I want her grades come first. Of course he was siding with us. So she did all that. She did all that. But we never reneged. We never gave in. And she came up with the counteroffer. We said, well, you show us and we'll see. We're not saying you can do this. We're saying if you fulfill all you've promised, then you'll get to play on the team. And she did. She did everything. And she never tried any of that again. And she went to one of the best colleges in the nation. So she's a terrific athlete and she's a terrific student. So, but you will have these showdowns, right? But it's important that they see, with all that carrying on, we did not give in and we did not interact with it. We didn't do this with her. We never argued with her. We just said, you made the choice. You knew what the agreement was, right? So we didn't make this choice. You did. So that actually happened, right? Any comments? Can you see how this works? Starting to see? All right, let's continue. All right, here is he wants to watch television and he has to be outside waiting for the bus. Okay? So let's see what the dad does.
Transportation. Stewart needs to be at the stop when the bus arrives.
Wait a minute.
Going by
Maybe I can go back. Yeah.
a choice is not possible. Giving a phony choice or the appearance of a choice when one is not possible sets the stage for problems. However, it is usually possible to set limits and invite the child to cooperate. Stewart is watching television in the morning before school. The school bus is due to pick him up soon. Because Matt depends on the bus for Stewart's transportation, Stewart needs to be at the stop when the bus arrives. Going by bus is not a choice, and Matt does not present it as one. Instead, he invites Stewart to get ready to go on time.
Stuart, you need to get your things together to go out to the bus.
I only want to watch for a few more minutes.
Well, I know you want to watch TV, but you need to be out there on the bus on time. So you can either go out there on your own, or I can go with you. You decide.
Sometimes the setting of limits with an invitation to cooperate and structured choices results in children choosing positive, appropriate behaviors.
So Stuart doesn't want to go out to the bus stop with his dad. He'd rather get out there on his own so he's not embarrassed. And so the dad says, you can go out there yourself, or I can go with you. You decide. But you need to be out there. I can't drive you to school if you miss the bus, right? So this TV thing is not one of the choices here. So any comments about that? All right.
But what happens when children choose to misbehave? What consequences will work to help them make better choices in the future? A consequence is the result of a choice the child has made. Effective consequences fit the misbehavior, separate the doer from the deed, show respect for the child and the parent, and focus upon the present rather than the past. Consequences also offer clear choices, showing children the relationship between the choices they make and the consequences that follow those choices. In this example, Amy presents Tony with a choice that has a consequence he can understand.
They're already misbehaving.
The frisbee is not for throwing around inside the house.
But Mom, we were having fun, and it's pouring rain outside.
It is too rainy outside. So if you boys can think of something to play together inside, Justin can stay. Otherwise, he'll have to go home. You decide.
Aw, Mom.
Hey, David, let's pick this stuff up. Good.
Justin, you can come again. So, what do you think about that? Anybody? Reading these, reading your chapter 6. Remember, every blue paragraph in the chapters give you more ideas of choices. Making up the choices sometimes is what's tricky, right? So there, the mom, I thought that was a great one for her to say. Wait a minute. Playing frisbee in the house is not okay. That's an outside the house game. You know that. So it's raining outside. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't go out and play in the rain. So if you can find something you can do in the house that doesn't break our house rules, your friend can stay. If you can't think of something that respects our home and keeps everything from getting broken, then your friend goes home. You decide. So Justin, his buddy, says, come on, let's clean up. Let's cooperate here, right? So those, I think, are great because they give us more ideas of how to make up these choices, you see? Any comments about what we saw?
Sorry, may I speak?
Please.
Actually something similar happened last week at home. My older son, he did something, and the consequence, he made bad choices, and so the consequence was no screen for a few days. Well, the next day his friend comes over and they play, and then he asked me if they could play video games. And I said, remember what we spoke about yesterday, no screen for a few days. So that rule still applies today. You can choose to play a board game, or your friend can leave. So that's what happened, and they decided to play outside. But to kind of keep the rule, even if friends come in, and to hold ground is hard to do at times. But but he actually followed through on that. Yeah.
And I can't say enough how critical it is that you keep your word. That whatever you said the consequence was going to be that they chose from a prior bad choice,
Mhm.
It has to be that you carry through, because if they see that you back down,
Mhm.
you've actually trained them to misbehave.
That's right. Yeah.
Because we know from research that our brains, the most the thing that teaches us most is when we don't know what's going to happen. It's when they know you're going to keep your word that it works. But whenever we get this answer this time, in other words, you follow through this time, and the next time you go, oh, well, it's okay. They never know which parent they're going to get. So they always then have been trained to test the limits and see how far they can push it. And you trained them to do that because you didn't keep your word and stick to whatever it was. The other thing I would be good about is being specific. Okay, like with that girl and her mother, she was coming home late from the curfew. She said, tomorrow, you will not see your friends. You will come home straight from school. The next day, we'll give you a chance to try again. So she knew exactly how long the consequence was going to last. So it shouldn't be a few days. It should be, okay, you chose to not use the games well, the video games well today. So tomorrow, there'll be no video games. The next day, we'll give you a chance to use the video games again and show that you can do it responsibly. But if you say a few days, I don't know when that's going to end. You see, try to be specific, and don't make big. Sometimes these long, you're grounded for a month. It's like it's more of a punishment for you than them. So it's easier, and the smaller the kid, the less sense of time they have. So it could be that they have to, if they're 3 years old or 4 years old, 4 minutes is all they can. The number of minutes as their age is as much as they can tolerate, right? So, yeah, you have to go sit in the timeout chair for 4 minutes, okay? And I'm going to set it on when the buzzer on the stove goes off. That's when the time is over. So they will know it's not capricious, that you're not going to just make it up anyway. Try to be specific. Yeah. Thank you for that example. Anybody else have a comment about that? Okay, let's see.
Amy presents a reasonable choice to her son and his friend. When using consequences, follow these simple guidelines. Always be firm but kind. Don't fight with your child. Show anger or give in. Use respectful words when expressing yourself. When your child makes a choice, respect that choice and follow through with it. Using these skills helps children learn how to be self-disciplined and responsible. In the scenes that follow, determine how you would respond if this incident occurred between you and your child. Practice using respectful communication, setting limits, inviting cooperation, and using appropriate consequences.
What is that smell? Stuart,
What, Dad?
you didn't take out the garbage and the whole place stinks.
Could Matt make a better response to Stuart? What would you do?
Yeah. Okay. What could Matt say to his son instead of what he did?
Tara, you're playing with my
Oh,
makeup.
no, it's
And I
still
thought
going
that you
on.
wouldn't play with your friends in my room.
Sorry.
Now, clear all that up and put it away like you found it.
All right,
What should
let's
the
watch this one.
consequence be? Did Diane respond appropriately to Tara's misbehavior?
Okay. So we agreed that you were not going to go in my room. And now you're here with your friend using my makeup. So what would you say to her? They obviously already had an agreement. Using your step strategies. Who owns the problem here?
I think the parent owns the problem because it's her makeup, so she has to use an I statement.
Her rights are being violated. She needs to make an I message, an I statement. Yeah. So what would you say?
I feel that my privacy is not respected when you and your friend go into my space without my permission.
Good. Good. So what this gives, when she's made that comment, right, gives her I message, the child or both children have a chance to respond. It's like she's walked in, she's saying this. Now it's up to the kid to take some action, right? I would expect if she did that, the kids would be getting up and going, "Oh, mom, I'm really sorry. Yeah, I blew it," or something, right? And see what ensues, see what happens, right? And it could be that you already worked out that if they were to go, some if they had an agreement, she wouldn't go in her mother's bedroom, then maybe there was already a consequence built into that. Like if you don't keep your word on this, what will happen? I don't know. So it could be that she's saying back, so I can see that you've chosen for your friend to go home now because you violated our agreement. We'll give her a chance to come back again on another day, but you've made that choice today by what you've done. Or maybe you talk it out, and you give the kids a chance to talk. Like my daughter came up with this counter offer, and she convinced us of how she was going to make it up to us, right? So maybe she'll say, "Okay, mom, we're going to clean up everything. I know I was wrong. I'm really sorry." I don't know. See what evolves, right? And maybe there's a consequence that you really have to still have to go home today. Your friend has to go home today. We'll give you a chance to try again tomorrow and keep your word. But you obviously don't want her going in your room with her friends if that's what you had decided was a boundary that you wanted to set. Okay? All right, folks, we're just about out of time. So what are your reflections on tonight? I'd like a little feedback from you, if you would, on this idea of discipline versus punishment. What do you see? Is there anything that you got out of watching all the different instances tonight, or the whole concept of discipline versus punishment?
I feel like as you're going through all the different characteristics of discipline, it all seem to be connected to a larger framework or infrastructure that's already set up beforehand, whereas punishment seems to be an action that's taken in the moment, and it's usually highly emotionally charged. And so it just showed me more the importance of creating classroom agreements, classroom expectations, and no matter when that misbehavior might happen, I can always relate it back to the classroom agreement and expectations and make those misbehaving moments into teachable moments.
Right. And if something new comes up, the idea in your back pocket of, you know what, we need to have a meeting. We need to talk this through. Something that's going on that we need to talk about, right? And use the methodology of how can we, let's all talk. Everybody's going to get a turn. Everybody's going to brainstorm some ideas. What can we do about this? How can we get it to be better, right? And think of what kind of modeling that is for them in their lives, that they bring that to their workplaces, to their future families themselves, their significant others, and so on, for their whole lives. So it's not just about in the moment, let me get you to do what I want you to do. It's just so much bigger, you see? And it makes life a lot nicer the way you're talking to each other, right? Instead of being so reactive that you're always doing this. Everybody remember this? You spend all your time doing this, flipping your lid, right? Other comments about tonight? Anything? What do you see? Anything out of tonight? Moms?
No, like you said, it just makes the environment, the atmosphere in the house so much better when you have conversations, and you can have, and getting the kids involved in that family making, in decision making process and so on. You're respecting them, their voice, and so on. And you realize, and you're also saying that they're very much part of this home, and we need you're an important member of this family. So, and that is important. Yeah. So discipline doing, but as parents, we have to discipline our children, but doing it kindly at the same time with, in form and kind. And yeah. So
Yeah. I'll tell you something too, that whenever I teach the course every year for the last 27 years, every fall, I am reminded of the skills. It never gets old, and it affects my life for months. And everything goes better with my husband and so on. We have family meetings, just the two of us, when things are not working and so on. But with my children when they were growing up, and now with my grandchildren too, if I notice that we start to get into, we're having a lot of tiffs, I pull this down off the shelf and I blow the dust off it and reread some passages, and it brings me back. And I'm reminded that I've been slipping away from using the skills. So I want you to understand, there are parents who have come to me and said, I took that course, it doesn't work. Or I've heard them say that to other, I did that, it doesn't work. It only works if you use the strategies. Just taking the course doesn't do it, right? It only works for me when I use the strategies. And when I fall away and go back into bad habits, it's not as effective. My life is not as pleasant. So I remind myself and start again. I can start tomorrow morning, first day of the rest of my life, always, okay? And I'm your coach for life. You've got my email. You can text me. You've got a way to reach me. You can always call me. I'm your coach for life once you've taken this course, among hundreds of parents and teachers from over the years. Okay. Next week is our last session. Last session. It's called Putting It All Together. So we're going to put it all together next week. Okay? And I'm sorry, Eileen reminded me I didn't send you my reminder today. And I'm really sorry. I fell short. And you need me to keep my word. So I want to apologize and tell you next week I will send you the message for the last week. Today, the roofers came. I'm getting a new roof. And the place was a shambles. And at 5:30, I went, oh, my course is starting any minute now. I got to get together. So I'm sorry. I really fell out of practice today. I hope you'll forgive me. See you next time. Love you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.